Hello, 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 my lucky stars. Welcome to ARTJAM. My name is BSTARJAM, and I am the Shoujo Beast. Listen, folks, what we're going to be talking about today is none other than this project that I'm working on right before your very eyes, entitled Lockhart. Now, okay, it had many titles. The title that I had for the first one that I did back in high school was called Coffee in December, which it had a Japanese title that I spelled totally wrong. Kohi ni ni jugatsu. So I'm changing that because since then I've developed my IPs enough to the point where I can have a proper title. Now, with that being said, I've ironed out a lot of the characters. The motivation is still shaky as AF, but for the most part, it's going great. I could actually get a great grasp on exactly the kind of universe that I want to build. So, with that being said, basically Lockhart is, I call it a doujinshi, but a doujinshi formally in its definition is basically fan comics, and this isn't a fan comic. It's an original IP, but at the same time, it is, how should I put it? I feel like it is a doujinshi though, because I've seen original doujinshis before. It's not like I've only seen doujinshis that are fan comics. Doujinshis to me just means like amateur comic, and it is an amateur comic. I mean, it's not reflective of any proper title that's on the market right now, but I will say this. Lockhart for me is my tester comic, and I am going all out. I'm trying to put all the bells and whistles on it. Like, I'm really trying to make all of my mentors and luminaries proud. I want Hagio Moto to see this. I want Sasuke Tobuki to see this. I want Arina Tanemura to see it. I want Lee So Young to see it. I want Koya Seong to see it. Like, if you don't know those names, go look them up. Their art is freaking amazing. Most of them are Tokyo pop artists. You might not remember some of their works because I revere manhwa, which is basically the Korean equivalent to manga, as much as I revere Japanese manga. So there are a lot of artists that I throw into the fold of my list of greats that some people will be thrown off by, unless you read manhwa too. I respect it equally, especially if you see the artistry behind it. It's amazing. But anyway, so if I could relate, because that's how people do, they related associations. Like, now, I per se don't typically get mad when people say, oh, your work looks like this, oh, your work looks like that. Actually, I rarely get it at all. The association of my work with some other great popular known artists, it's a good thing to me. Even if it did happen, I wouldn't give a, well, I'm trying not to curse, but I wouldn't give a, so, you know, but if I had to relate this work, this IP that I'm working on, this original work, I would say this is my Tokyo Babylon. Like, this is my Tokyo Babylon, and I love Tokyo Babylon so freaking much. I have the DVD still. Excuse me, I have the DVD still at home. I don't watch it because I don't own a DVD player, but I still keep it as a collectible. But anyway, I say that to say that Tokyo Babylon, to me, being the start, or like a soft prequel to X, just, I don't know, you know how you gravitate to something that's just not even that great? Tokyo Babylon is good, but by no means am I blowing smoke up my own chimney enough to say that it's an amazing work. Artistically, it shows the genesis of what Clamp would become, which is immaculately great. I mean, as exaggerated and as we can get semantic with their style in certain series, but overall, I'm talking about the greatness of Clamp Southside, not Northside. Southside, I believe, you guys can correct me in the comment section if I'm wrong, but Southside emanated that classical shoujo style before they totally switched things up with Cardcaptor Sakura, Chobits, Angelic Layer, and their later titles. But yeah, so this series right here that I'm working on, my first, you know, pretty much like, what should I call it? Like my first official manga that I accept as an official manga is my Tokyo Babylon. It's basically about a world that sparks magic out of the blue. I will explain that why. But my whole universe connects together. Even, and I know I mentioned this at least twice already in one of my other videos, even the virtual reality slice of life soft hentai that I'm doing, that connects with this world too. I'm so excited to get this project out. Like I'm really trying to do it the right way. I'm trying to kind of brush up on my skills of formally completing a project the way that I have gathered from the technique that other people have done it. I'm talking about a formal process. So like you do your character sketches. After your character sketches, you're going to do your story writing. After your story writing, and this is by no means in order that I'm saying that you should do it, but this is how I've gleaned from other people's videos, and I've watched a ton, trust me. I've watched so many damn videos on indie comics that it's not even funny. But this is what I've gleaned, and this is how I've formulated my process so that it works for me. Character sketches, writing the story, layouts, and my layouts, because I'm classically trained in that whole shoujo artist sphere, my layouts have to be 60 to 70% done in order for me to move on to the inking. So when you see my layouts, I'm going to include all of my layouts and sketches and all that kind of stuff in the back of my manga as a plus, or should I do it as a separate? I don't know. Should I sell it as a separate book? Because I have a lot of production notes. It's kind of going to be like it's kind of going to be like Takeshi Obata's Never Finished or Never Fully Done or whatever. If you guys know that book, when he had his gallery over in Tokyo, his gallery Never Fully Done or whatever, he released his rough layout art book, and I can't find it to save my life. I want the platinum end rough art layout book so bad, but it's non-existent. Not even on eBay, not even in the darkest danks of the web. I can't find it. I can find the Bakuman sketchbook, I can find the Death Note sketchbook, but you cannot find the platinum end sketchbook. I digress. Anyway, should I sell the sketchbook and all the production notes as a separate piece, or should I include it in the manga? Because as it stands, this doujinshi right here is going to be no less than, I'm not even gonna lie, at the rate that I'm tweaking, adding, and reorganizing the story, this shit is gonna be like so at least 100 pages. Like, no lie, I'm going all out for this book, and I don't mind at all. It is a trial and error book, but I'm really putting my all into it, and I just want people to appreciate the influence of Year 24 group and modern artists like Yukiro Tsugisagi, like all these artists I've like revered and studied so in depth. I want you to see that in my artwork and how I've put my own spin on it, how I've put a lot of work, a lot of grandeur into my style to make the eye wonder about the page and really get into this sort of like sparkly, wondrous imagination. And that's one thing I'm no short of. I don't like when people say, I don't know what to draw about, I don't know what to do. That's never my problem, dude. Can't relate. No, I don't say that to ostracize people who don't have ideas, but I must say that it comes from a place of wonder, and it comes from a place of me really wanting to tell my own story, stuff that I've had in the back of my mind, stuff that I may have been influenced by, but I look at it and I'm like, I could do that better, or this is how I would tell that story. And simply, sometimes I'm just influenced by my mood and things that I've seen, like, oh, I would love to do a story about this. I would love to do a story about that. And I'm also kind of like, I'm guilty of judging people's story and saying it's derivative and stuff like that, but I've actually grown further away from that kind of thinking, because one thing I've understood is that you haven't seen this story done through their eyes. And it kind of makes me think of the argument of, oh, you shouldn't copy styles or you shouldn't do that. to me, copying a style will never be the exact same as someone else's because it's your interpretation of what you think that person draws like. Like this right here, you may not know this artist is very fringe artist, but they have a book called Gurenki, Gurenki, and I love that manga. Like, that manga is beautifully drawn. It's by an artist that goes by a couple of aliases and a circle name. Circle is basically like an auxiliary term for a group of artists, so the circle name for them is Take Wakamaru. And if you look up Gurenki, it is a beautifully drawn manga. It's a Yuri, so if you're not into that kind of thing, it's not overly hardcore Yuri. It's basically, this person is by and large a hentai artist, but they have toned it down and actually came up with an IP that was marketable and didn't have overtly sexual themes. Like, it did have sexual themes soft, like very, very softly. Basically like the creator of what is it, Ghost in the Shell, how he did a bunch of booby manga a bunch of boobs and butts and stuff like that, but his one breakout story that so many people revere today is Ghost in the Shell. So this artist, Take Wakamaru, and their manga Gurenki is amazing. Go look it up. That's basically the influence that I have for this manga. Of course with Clamp, of course with even Koga Danbo. You may not see the influence, but I'm using little elements of Koga Danbo in my work right here too. So, you know, I'm pulling from a lot here. Also, in collaboration with studying a lot of different manga artists, you guys, it is so important to broaden your horizons and look up other illustrators. I mean, regular American illustrators, regular Japanese illustrators, things that have nothing to do with manga, and just absorb that world. You know, get into it. Even I love Jean-Honoré Fragonard. He's a French painter back in the Rococo period, and I just love the grandeur of his world. Like, it's amazing. It's just completely amazing. But yeah, I feel like I've talked enough. I'm basically excited about this. Please ask me about my work. Please stay tuned. I'm going to come back with more process vids. This vid is actually one of 3 that I'm going to release because there's no way that I was going to put all of that into this one video. So stick around. Hopefully you get to see this journey and have fun with me along the way. I want you guys to draw with me. I want you guys to talk to me. I want you guys to send me messages. Ask me questions about my process. If you like my style, come along for the ride. Also, if you're a creator yourself, just send me a message. Maybe we can connect. I can see your work and see what you're working on. So yeah, peace.